I am happy to announce the 10th annual Butch Ward Scholarship Bass Fishing Tournament that is being held at the Fish and Games Club on Big Slack on the Upper Potomac River. The event is Sunday, October 26th, and blast off is at 7:30 a.m. It is $115 per boat. You can fish with a partner or by yourself, and the event is going to go until 3:30 p.m. Big Slack on the Upper Potomac River is a scenic impoundment in Western Maryland, and it's one of the few places in Maryland you can safely operate a fiberglass bass boat without any motor restrictions. But fair warning, Big Slack is no Bass Pro Shop aquarium or stocked bass pond. This is a tough fishery that's going to challenge the best anglers. But if you can catch them here, it'll make the Ohio River or New Jersey look like Lake Gunnersville. For more information, link in the episode description down below. See you there. You're listening to Fishing the DMV with your host, Thomas Ahrens. Fishing the DMV is brought to you by Jake's Bait and Tackle, located in Winchester, Virginia.
If that doesn't get you jacked up, I don't know what will.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Fishing the DMV. I'm your host, Thomas Ahrens. Today, we're heading back to North Carolina to talk with one of our fan favorites here, Dave Hart, just to kind of check up on his world and what's been going on. Dave, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, man, appreciate it. Sorry it's taken so long. I think you hit me up like in June, maybe July. Somebody had to put an August, summer sizzling tournament out there to keep me busy. So I finally caught up.
You were a busy bee with all the tournaments you were fishing. And then I think that was that when you had that insane day out on the water? Was in July or was it August?
Well, I had a couple insane days. One, I did fish at this body of water during that event, but the insane day was back in May. So it was just coming off the post spawn. But August, man, we can hit on it. There's just so many good fisheries around here. We're spoiled. It's almost like, taking candy in the cookie jar or taking cookies out of the cookie jar. But, it was cool that in that August event, I think I submitted fish from 4 or 5 different bodies of water. So that was fun. But yeah, we can hit on the big bag at some point if you want to go back in time. But,
well, let's do it.
Yeah. Well, okay, let's start there. So, this year, I focus on tournament fishing. I fun fish a lot, but really this year was tournament focused. But in hindsight, what's weird is I didn't do a ton of tournaments, which is kind of weird. I do manage our Tar Heel Lunkers kayak bass team. So just operations keeps me busy on that. But I guess I'll start with just the tournament. So just to take a step back, we fished 4 events with our team, and again we fish against 2 teams out of the Tidewater area, and we have a setup where everybody gets to choose a lake, and then we have 2 mutual lakes to kind of make it even and split it up. So started off, first event was back, I want to say it was late April, might have been early May. I don't even remember now. That's crazy. I think it was late April. Anyways, we were on Roanoke Rapids, which was kind of a new body of water to most of us. Again, just do something different, have fun. It was a struggle for our team. We had a great practice. I had basically, like everybody knows, it's a current driven reservoir below. It's below Carbugs and Gaston, so it's the last in the line before it goes into Weldon down the river. So got a lot of current, and there's a lot of grass in that lake. The problem was the grass hadn't quite come up yet, so you couldn't really see grass edges. You couldn't really, find the juice unless you were really, really, at it for days upon days. And not being there, we just didn't have time. So anyways, we stunk it up. We found some awesome sneaky stuff in practice, but we had a cold front come through, as is always the case, and it screwed it all up. So shout out to Norfolk Privateers. They won that one. Then we went to Chick River, I think was next. I didn't fish that event, but we always love fishing the Chick. I know it gets a lot of love here, and I know why. That's a love-hate place for me. Chick, it changes every year. I think this is the 3rd time we fished it. We fished the lake once, and this was the 3rd time fishing the river. Every single year it's different. The beauty of Chick in my mind, whereas we fished Rappahannock River in the past, for us, the main river is not fishable for bass. But on the Chick, it is, obviously. And we've had success doing that the last 2 years. This year, not so much. Our approach is always to try to, we can field 4 guys. So usually it's, we search high and low. We've seen every piece of that river from the James up to the dam. But we try to split where we put 2 guys on the main and 2 guys up in certain creeks. And it's just wild, similar times a year to year, creek will be on fire, then it'll be completely dead, and then turn around and be on fire, but a totally different pattern than what it was in the past. And that was the case for us. So anyways, we went up and we won the chick, which was awesome. So that's last 2 times we've been to the chick, we've been able to pull out a win. And that's always a close tournament, always a very, very close tournament. So 1-1, lost 1. And then let's see, we went to Mayo Lake, which I know I mentioned to you is one on the North Carolina scene that is starting to get a little excitement. There was so they do a 5 Alive Trail boat series up there. Usually get 30, 35 boats.
Wow.
And they actually have a Mayo only trail, plus other trails that it kind of dabbles in and out of. And they're actually getting, I don't know a ton about it, but they're getting creative with the forward facing stuff, which I'll stay away from, but they're doing a non-forward facing trail this fall, or they just wrapped it up. But anyways, Mayo gets a ton of pressure now, but it's generally small. It's one of those weird reservoirs. If I had to guess, it's about 3,500 acres, 4,000 acres, somewhere in there. So it's not huge. It's a single ramp. But we hit that in the dead of summer. Right. It was boiling hot. There's a lot of grass in that reservoir, ton of pressure because of the boat trails. And then there was a 1/10 weighed in tournament that got some press release up there. So it's got really good quality fish. Anyways, the wild thing about that, which I thought was unique, is I wouldn't believe it if I didn't see it, but I think because it's a generally clear reservoir, it's not gen clear by any means, but it's relatively a lot clearer water than most of the reservoirs around here. We found out we were getting bit on a buzzbait in the middle of the day. Bright bluebird. I mean, this isn't cloudy, rainy conditions. This is bright bluebird, not a puff of wind. And so that was the pattern we ran. And lo and behold, like as always, here comes another cold front. This was after the bad floods we had in July. So this would have been early August. So we had terrible rains, which I'll hit on, which is wild because Mayo was, it came up probably 3 feet. It's literally 12 miles as the crow flies from Hyco, which I'll talk about. And Hyco got obliterated. Worst flooding they've ever had. Devastating.
And what time of year would this is, just to make sure we timestamp it?
Yeah. So the rains came through. That was with Tropical Storm Chantal, I think it was. So that hit on July 6th.
Okay.
So we're talking the tournament at Mayo was, I think, August 8th or 9th, somewhere in there. So about a month after. And you could tell, like I said, Mayo had come up and back down, but the water was still relatively clear. So anyways, we had the rains. July was really wet around here. And then it got really hot, as always, for about 2 weeks. Like, it wasn't horrible, but it was just hot, stagnant, and no rain. So it just felt like, you just felt like anytime you go to launch, it was going to be a tough day. But at Mayo, for whatever reason, they were on fire. Fast forward tournament day, lo and behold, we literally went from upper 90s to, I think, tournament day, we had a front come in where it kind of hung out. There's drizzle, clouds, north wind, which is horrible. For most people know, northeast wind is no good. And I don't think it got out of, it may have gotten to the low 70s that day. So just a complete drastic turnaround. And luckily enough, first thing in the morning, they were still on the buzzbait deal, and we cashed in early. And talking to some other teams, like they like our bite was 100% first hour and a half. And then it died for us. We really struggled. I ran a milk run of stuff. Like, the wind was howling. It was horrible, but I figured, some of the main lake points that I'm comfortable with, I thought I could run that and crank or whatever. And they just, I don't know. It's almost like, for me, there's a threshold of like good wind versus too much wind. Mm-hmm. And I think it was too much wind. I even ducked back into one creek arm, I ran it. I mean, we practiced a bunch. Like, we dedicate a lot of time to this team thing, because it's, not just for you, but for your buddies. And it's a good excuse to go share time on the water with them too. So, in one of those days, like, we would run a bunch of creek arms, and like certain creek arms would look great. You'd have steep banks, you'd have stumps, you'd have laydowns, rocky banks, and it'd be dead. You'd go two creeks down. And I think in one practice, I think I just started throwing a glide bait just to see what lived there. I think I had, I don't know, it was between 8 and 10 followers, on the glide bait. So I, put that in my memory book, and tournament day didn't happen. But anyways, we snuck out a win on that one. I know I'm rambling on Mayo, but Mayo's a cool fishery. It's pretty close to the guys in Virginia. So if you want to change the pace, it's free, wildlife ramps, great parking, great ramp. And it doesn't get a ton of the, may get some, pleasure boat traffic, but nothing like some of the other lakes. So it's actually really, really fun fishery. Scoper's paradise out there. It's mostly what the boat guys do out there.
And you said there was SAV?
What's that?
There is grass on that lake?
There is. Yeah, there is. Yeah, there's quite a bit. It's arguably got more than anywhere around here. The weird thing about it is like we were convinced that the reason the buzzbait bite was so good is that those fish would sit in 8 to 10 feet of water off the bank down in the grass, and they just see it shooting overhead, and it's a reaction bite. And they would literally come vertical.
Wow.
Straight up. You could see them straight up come up and just annihilate it. What was frustrating about those, if you go to some of the main lake points, and we found most of our fish around creek mouths, the first quarter, third of the pockets, things like that. That was the primary, a little bit on points, but not, really around those creek mouths. But you'd get out, there's some obvious, you can see, I think it's no surprise. There's obvious offshore humps and big offshore flats, and, where you just see miles of grass. It's all subsurface. It never tops out up there, from what I've seen, which is a little interesting. But my point is, what I'm getting to is dedicated some time on those slow, calm days, just looking around, and never saw any kind of life, not a bluegill, not a bass, not nursery type bass, nothing. So I don't know, it perplexed us quite a bit that, thinking that would be a deal. I do know one of the other teams up one of the creek arms, he found a good grass bite with a chatterbait. It was an afternoon deal. I don't, kudos to him because we never found it. So, but Mayo's one that, I think is a really cool fishery. It's mostly natural banks. There are a couple creek arms that have houses. So you got some areas of docks. You've got a couple areas of riprap. You got deep stuff by the dam. So it's a very diverse fishery, and it's got quality, man. I know, 2-3 years ago, a lot of 25 to 30 pound bags. It seemed like it was down a little bit this year, 20 to 22. Summertime they only do the 3 fish limit. So, but you always had it's 4 pound average to win that tournament. So it's just a solid fishery. So that was August in Mayo. Then we fished Waccamaw. Lake Waccamaw is a Carolina Bay way down east. I didn't fish that one. I was supposed to, but had some family stuff come up, and wouldn't you know it, 3 of 4 tournaments. Guess what happened? Cold front hits. So it's a deal where, it's just a big bowl. You can look at it. It's a shallow bowl, lined with docks. Guys caught tons of fish on the docks and some good ones. There's some huge lily pad fields. There's some major creeks that you got to watch out for the gators, but can hold a lot of fish. And then, there's some stuff, offshore that, can be good as well. So that was one where we were almost overly confident in as a team. That was the lake we chose. We've got a couple guys that have some really good experience on it, and we were getting our butts handed to us for the first couple hours. It was pretty awful. I think we had two 14-inchers on the board. Keeping in mind, we feel we got to do 10 fish as a team. It wasn't, we were lines in at probably 6:30, 6:45. And I don't, we didn't even start putting fish up till 11, 12 o'clock.
Wow.
And talking back, it's just one of those things. And we knew we had to wait them out. We knew it was an afternoon deal, but the clouds just never broke. They finally did, but it was just kind of off. You look at the tournament when we caught some toads. I think my buddy Don Trail caught it was a 23.5 that he caught tournament day. And there's toads in that lake, but they weren't having it that day. So Waccamaw was awesome. We eked it out. The afternoon bite finally picked up just enough. But the other 2 teams, they caught them good. I know, the dock stuff was typical, shaky head, wacky rig, things like that. I know some guys got them on a frog and a weightless fluke. So just fun fishing, just sounds like a real good time.
And is it, I think you said it was a bay. Is it a lake? Is it saltwater, freshwater? Like, what is it?
So it's freshwater. So the term is a Carolina Bay. So there's a debate out of what they are and how they formed. If you look at them, they're all through the Southeast. You can geek out. There's actually Geo Models is the guy on YouTube. He's a guy from North Carolina. He's a geologist. If you're into that stuff, he's got some fascinating stuff on Hurricane Helene and how things happened and why they happened, with some of the flooding and the landslides. But anyways, the Carolina Bays are all through the Southeast. They're actually all the way up into Delaware a little bit. So they're in coastal Virginia. They're in North Carolina, whatever. So they're wild. They're just perfectly elliptical, depressions in the landscape, and they're everywhere. They're like little eggs in the landscape everywhere. And some of them get deep enough to hold water. And there's a handful, like Lake Mesquite, White Lake, Lake Waccamaw, are some of the big ones down in North Carolina. So yeah, it's freshwater, it's landlocked, it's down on the coastal plain. It's got, a couple creeks that feed it. Otherwise, it's just kind of its own little ecosystem.
Is the fishing in these types of lakes, is it more of a summertime is when it's at its prime? Like, how are grass lakes like Mayo and Waccamaw in the fall as the dies off? Is that like a do avoid at all costs, or can still be successful?
No, I think all of the above are still good into the fall. Waccamaw I can't speak to in the winter. One, I mean, it's a shallow body of water, but it's far enough down east where, temperature wise, it probably doesn't get too cold. So I know for a fact you still catch them through the fall. It's a great crappie fishery as well. Some slabs in there, huge slabs. Mayo is good throughout the winter. Finesse deep stuff. It can be really good out there. And for me, it's always fun being from the kayak because no one else is out in the water. So you have free run of the place usually. But yeah, Waccamaw is a really interesting place. It kills me I didn't get down there. I was supposed to fish that one, like I said, and had some family stuff come up. So, but I will get down there. It can put out some bigs. So anyways, that's the tournament scene. We can go in now. So the Summer Sizzling deal that you put on was awesome. I actually jumped into it late because I've told myself just, the pressures of other tournaments and life in general, like the monthlies, it's just, I don't know. It's hard to not put pressure on yourself. Like I know they're supposed to be fun and relaxing, but so I kind of gave them up years ago, a couple years ago. But this one I was like, you know what? I've got all these tournaments in August anyway. Let me just jump in, double dip. What can it hurt? And try to put North Carolina on the map a little bit. I feel guilty because I know it's mostly the Maryland, Virginia guys. But I know obviously with Steve Beck, like Virginia has the caliber of fish to compete and outdo. So I'm just jealous. We don't really have the smallmouth, so I need to come up there. I keep saying that, but
yeah, you guys don't have smallmouth, do you? Or is it more of in the Appalachian part of the state?
We do, yeah. It's mostly in the Appalachian. So the closest body of water that has smallmouth here is the Uwharrie River, which flows into Baden Lake, and there are some smallies in Baden. I've heard of like a 4-pounder caught in the Uwharrie River. I believe it. I fished it like 15 years ago and just caught dinks. But so that, for me, just geographically, that's about a little over an hour from me, like going towards Charlotte. So it's kind of weird because it's still very much in the Piedmont and South. So other than that, obviously some smallmouth up in the Dan, Stanton River that come into Carr. I would say Lake James is arguably the closest like reservoir. So that's up in Morganton. They're fighting like anywhere. The Alabamas are in there, so they're getting the mean mouse and the inbreeding. So the smallmouth are a matter of time before they're wiped out, unfortunately. I unfortunately heard so that they're in the Dan River now as well. So they came out of Blues Lake. The Alabamas did. So Blues Lake is north of Greensboro, and tributary goes into the Dan. So they're interbreeding with the smallmouth population there as well. So it's just tough. And we heard here too, just last week, good buddy of mine, the absolute hammer of all hammers around here, Will Lambert, was on Lake Mackintosh, which is our it's 5 minutes down the road from me, but it's arguably the best kayak lake around here. The boat guys won't say so much, but it's just consistently like day in, day out, year to year. Like I've said it before, like it always, well, this year was an anomaly. It's not, it is what it is. But prior to that, like it's always mid to upper 90s or better for your best 5 to win. It's always a 22-incher for big bass. It doesn't matter what time of year. There's 3 to 4 tournaments there a year, and it always puts out. So, unfortunately, there was I think it was a 20.5 Alabama bass that he caught in there.
Wow.
So they're in there, which sucks. I hate it. So sorry about the dog.
Yeah, hopefully that'll be minimized. Again, guys, please do not transport fish. That's definitely a problem. You know, we saw what happened at Gaston and Bugs Island, and yeah, just hopefully we could put a kibosh on that, because largemouth is one thing, but it will really hurt the smallmouth population when you get into the smallmouth waters, especially smallmouth rivers up in Virginia and Maryland.
Yeah. And I just don't get it. I don't get the premise. Like, I mean, maybe I'm pretty naive. Maybe I'm a little biased, but like, you know, maybe some of these large clearwater reservoirs, like people just think, oh, these, you know, they see the linears, they see all that. Oh, these spotted bass are going to thrive. Like Mackintosh is the complete opposite of that. It's a huge nutrient load. The largemouth population is so good in there. There's no reason for it. There's just no reason. But I don't know, you know, somebody thought that they were going to go have fun catching Alabamas. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, hopefully we can curtail it, but that just sucks. Mackintosh is it's a gem. It's a true gem for around here. But it's what it is.
Yeah, and we'll definitely have to do a deep dive, and I'll have to get Will on the show too to talk about Mackintosh more at some point, because yeah, like North Carolina area definitely needs to get more love. And people have always asked, like, what is the DMV area? It's like, well, the Shenandoah division, the Piedmont division are interchangeable. Like people from Virginia and North Carolina both fish it, so it's kind of part of this weird group, because the Piedmont and the Shenandoah division of the BFLs always have the biggest turnouts for the last like 2 or 3 years, talking to the guys that run the BFLs, which is wild. You think Alabama would be in the top, but yeah, it's the Shenandoah and the Piedmont division, which makes sense, because this is where this is where the money is, where you have a job that can pay you enough to travel to fish them.
Yeah. Well, and too, like geographically, I mean, again, like pick and choose. I mean, I don't know the actual boundaries, but I'll just, you know, vaguely say, okay, Santee Cooper to Hartwell to Murray to, you know, look at what the Pasquotank did this year on the big trails, like that's Elizabeth River, all those, you know, it's like, I mean, those are day trips, right? You know, from, you know, like I said, I've always said, like, that's the big reservoir, the big boat tournament, you know, view, like, but for me, like the local municipal lakes, I know there's just as many in Virginia in Maryland. You know, I grew up fishing the ones in Maryland, so I know, you know, even, you know, what are capable of there. But really, Virginia and North Carolina, the municipal lakes are just so good. So good.
And Bugs is putting out a lot better, which is crazy. Just looking at the weights and stuff from all the tournaments the past couple of weekends, it's definitely an uptick.
Yeah, it is. And I think you had him on years ago. I don't know him personally, but I keep up with his socials. Will Nash, I think. He said, I always knew it existed, but I think he posted finally a 5-pound spot from Bugs. So they're at that caliber.
Yeah. And I've had this on the show a bunch, talking about Bugs and the hate I've dished out. And it's just been like, there's just not, at the time, there wasn't the amount of quality. So somebody would always say, like, yeah, well, I caught a 20-pound bag of spots. It's like, yeah, but if there's only 6 spots that size, you can't really say like that's going to show up in tournament results. Now there's enough of a population size where it is showing up. And that's what's interesting, because that will start snowballing here in a couple of years, I think, when the weights get better and better and better at that bottom half, which, yeah, we're starting to see.
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest, from a kayak world, they can have it. I hate that place. It's not a kayak friendly place.
It's not. And that's, we'll circle back to Hyco, but this is a good kayak conversation here. I just wish the bigger trails would understand that you need to go to places that are kayak friendly and not just example, just to throw it under the bus, going to Gunnersville because the elites are going to Gunnersville. So let's just put everyone there to make it easier. It's like, great, but is that a kayak friendly lake? You have Roanoke Rapids, you have other lakes, Hyco and Mayo, you have other places around Bugs that if the elites go to Bugs, go to another lake that's a little bit more friendly to kayak and lean into what kayaking can do. You can go to lakes that you can't have big bass boat tournaments, which is, I think, one of the allures of it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, and I think, it's in time. I mean, like, locally, like, and again, it's just my like tunnel vision view, like all the trails around here. So I've said we have, the one in Raleigh, the one in Greensboro, the one out of Charlotte, like they all do a good job of diversification. They all hit those big bucket list lakes, Queen City, especially, like, they always hit Norman, Wiley, Murray, Hartwell, Santee Cooper. Doesn't matter. But now you're starting to see, like, they're starting to release their schedule, like Lake Kiwi, like all these upstate, I'm getting a little farther out of your territory, but like if you look at like upstate Georgia, South Carolina, like I fished a little no-name lake in my kayak like 3 weeks ago coming back from Chattanooga for work, and just gorgeous. I mean, it was tough fishing, but gorgeous scenery, big largies in there. There are big Alabamas in there, but yeah, so like, the trails, back to my point here, like that we do a good job diversifying, like, like the big lakes and the small lakes. Like City of Greensboro, we have something called the Gate City Classic with Carolina Kayak Anglers, which Gate City's Greensboro. So it's all the municipal lakes around Greensboro, and then they throw Mackintosh because it's on the county line where Greensboro is, and then they throw in Randleman as well. So Randleman's a lake that has been up and down. That was like, I'm pretty sure it was like rated top 10 best bass lakes in the country right after it opened in the 90s. So, big, huge, stupid fish hadn't seen a bait before, and that place was fire for the first 10 years. And it's, like a lot of our lakes too, it's cool because there's a southern ramp, which is the main ramp. And it is limited to when they're open, so pressure's down a little bit. And then there's the ramp up on the north end called South. It's weird. It's on the north, but they call it Southwest Park. I don't know why they did that, but it's a canoe kayak John boat launch only. So there's a section, non-motorized. Mackintosh is the same. A lot of lakes around here just, non-motorized or horsepower limits. And then there's, some that have the mix. So yeah, just the point is our fisheries are so good, so diverse. And I think we do a good job locally. It's, like I said, it's just a matter of these larger tournaments. And I get it, 100, 150, 200 people, you got to start thinking logistics. Hyco and Mayo are a tough one, because they are a single launch. But if you plan it out right, you could do it. Like, the facility at Hyco is beautiful. Like, I mean, they've got, I think it's three main boat lanes, and then there's two side lanes as well. So, it's a huge parking lot, so they could do it. It's just the fact of like, single ramp plus the recreational guys. So if, you just have to figure out the logistics. And frankly too, they've been, I guess it's a good segue into, the flooding that occurred there. They just had their hands full. I mean, they got devastated. It was kind of a surprise, of course, just like Helene, like hindsight's 2020, like no one saw it coming. Right. But, I'll never forget. So it was early July. We knew a storm was coming up, like a little tropical system was going to come up. And, early in the week, they were like, yeah, it might rain a little bit. And it was like literally like on a Thursday. I know this because my son's birthday was on Sunday, the 6th. And I had planned to take him on the Haw River on a little kayak canoe float trip with the family. So we were going to go on Sunday on his actual birthday, and then started looking at the forecast. It might be chance of showers. We better move it up to Saturday. So we floated Saturday. It was a beautiful day. And I'll never forget, we went under right below the launch where we put in, you go under the Interstate 40, Interstate 85 bridge, and you look up. And I'll never forget, I was like, see, kids? I was like, it's crazy. I'm pointing like 35 to 40 feet in the air, and there's a big tree limb up under the rafters of the bridge. I was like, see, it doesn't happen very often, but water can get way up there. And lo and behold, 12 hours later, it was there. We got 10 to 12 inches of rain in about a 3 to 4 hour period. And Hyco absolute perfect storm. If you look at Hyco, it's kind of oriented. I'm going to get this wrong because I don't know how I'm oriented on the screen, but it's basically an east-west lake with a little bit of trend from south to north going to like, it kind of points towards Norfolk or Virginia Beach. So it's kind of oriented that way. But there's the main three creek arms that feed it all come from, towards the south and southwest. So pointing towards like, kind of like Durham, kind of like Greensboro in there. And that bullseye of rain, like you couldn't have planned it more perfectly, just bullseyed right over those three creeks. And they're not like huge creeks. It's not like a major river coming in. But all three creeks at the same time just inundated that lake. And it rose. I mean, so on all the dock houses, it escapes me how high it was. But on all the dock houses, I got a photo where I took the high water mark standing in our dock house was over my head. So it was around 8 feet above normal pool. Docks got washed out, boats were crushed, because we just no one had any warning. So, majority of people's boats were still in the slips, and the boat, they rose, crushed the docks, popped the docks off. A lot of current through that lake. There's no emergency gates on that lake, on the dam. So it's a power plant lake, but it was traditionally a coal power plant mid-lake. It's not a hydroelectric down at the bottom where they have emergency gates. It's got emergency spillways, but that water just, had nowhere to go but rise up. So it completely wrecked that place, completely devastating. But kudos, we're resilient, right? So, a month later, they had the lake back open. They did some, obviously just the triage immediately of, people out there helping each other out, like people towing boats, towing furniture, it was crazy. Like if you looked at the main ramp for weeks on end, it just looked like, I hate to say it, like a yard sale. Like there was just stuff everywhere, paddle boards, kayaks, picnic tables, chairs, boats, jet skis. Like, hey, if this is yours, and they would, they did a good job of like posting it on social media of like, if this is yours, come get it. No looting, anything like that I know of. So for weeks on end, it was just triage. But literally a month later, so that happened July 6th, a little over a month. I think it was like August 18th. They officially opened the lake back up to recreation. And, it's amazing. Like if you didn't know it happened, I go to Hyco, many, many times this summer, and throughout the year. If you didn't know it, just looking at the way people bounce back, like you would know, if you weren't zooming in on stuff, everything was back to normal, fish included. I think I told you, Hyco's a silly place. It's hard to catch a big one, but man, you can get them grouped up. The day it opened, from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m., I caught 81, landed 81 bass, and lost probably 20 more. It's just a place, right place, right time. You can get rich quick, and it's just a blast. It'll wear you out. A lot of small fish, but not like tiny. You're talking, I would say, an average of 16 to 17-inch fish, 2-pounders, every cast, doubling up. Occasionally you get a good 4 to 5, but so the fish made it through. That's the amazing thing. And what's wild, I think I've been up there 3 times since the flood, and what's really wild to me is if I'm going from point A to point B, I've got my spots, my milk runs. If I'm just running, I'll see stuff on my side scan. I'm like, that's a big something that's not supposed to be there. That's a big something that wasn't there before. So you see the debris, but what's wild is every single place, and I'm talking 10 or 12 places, maybe more. Every single place where I fish, it's like nothing happened. You think I would see a huge bunch of mud debris or big piles of trees and docks and stuff. No, it's all the same. So nature's resilient. Nature's amazing.
Life finds a way.
It does find its way. Yeah. So, but yeah. So what's wild is if you look at a map, Hyco is right here. And like I said, it was just perfect because there's 3 creeks. The rain just sat right here, and literally 12 miles to the east is Mayo, and barely touched. 2 weeks after the flood, Mayo's still clear, and it's just wild. Yeah. There you go. So you can see, right where your cursor is, that's one of the creek arms, and then going over, to 119 to the west there. That rain just sat all right there where you're zoomed in. It just dumped.
Wow.
And the other thing that's wild about it is if you scroll to the northeast a little bit, I don't know if you see, well, actually, there's that red mark. I think it says like buoys, maybe. That, yeah, well, yeah, come back. That red mark that was to the west, that orangish red
Right here.
dot, whatever, right there, yeah. So there's a bridge there. If you zoom in, actually, you can see it. Zoom in even more. So the entire lake, I tell people, is split in half, and that's literally. If it's 50 yards, I'm surprised. All the water in that lake has to go. So at least two of those creek arms, all the water from two creek arms goes through that one tiny little opening.
Wow.
And you talk about this, there's video and stuff of debris that got pushed up against it and slammed down. Unreal. That the design of that lake's crazy. It really fishes like 3 different lakes when you break it down. But
that's so interesting. Like how they built it.
It's all it's all how they designed the power plant. Like so that it's weird. Like so that lower bridge right there, that's actually, if you zoom out a little bit and go to the west, there's a little cut through other way, and then south a little bit. Sorry, right, a little farther south. See that canal right there, that cut through. Okay, so that's called Cobb's Creek Canal, and so that's obviously a man-made canal, and it's basically, for some reason, they connected those two creek arms, and that southern basin that it opens up to, that water all feeds into the power plant. So that's the intake. If you go east, and then there's a man-made dam at the east end of that, and then the discharge back into the main lake is down below. Yeah, I don't know. It's just wild, and you can look. There's a bunch of like little feeder canals and all kinds of stuff. I mean, it was, I don't know when they put that thing in the '60s, maybe, but it's a wild design.
How did the dams hold up, or how did the bridges hold up with all the flooding? Because you said like there's a lot of debris and crap pushed up against it.
Yeah, surprisingly, I mean, to my knowledge, like the bridges all looked really good. I don't know them. I don't know if they just went through and cleaned it, or if they actually. I don't think they did any construction. There's one of the upper bridges like just looked immaculate to me. I was like, I could not believe in a month's time, how it looked. It was wild is that main one I pointed out first. Like it's a really low bridge. Like at normal pool, like you got a duck in a pontoon boat to get under it. It's one of those real low bridges. So it's not like there's a ton of like scaffolding or support beams and things like that for stuff to get hung up on. So I think it did relatively well. That's South Hyco Creek. And there's another weird little side canal that they use for intake.
Is this fishable or is that off limits?
It is fishable. I've never been down there because it's a country mile in a kayak. I've been close to it, but yeah, you can go all the way down and then come all the way back up. Yeah, it is fishable. I've talked to some guys that have fished it. Yeah. At some point, it's gated off some of those canals and stuff, but and then the other wild thing is Afterbay is below it, and what sucks about it. So there's the main dam on Hyco, and then there's the emergency spillway, and then the reservoir you're kind of looking at now. Yeah, there's the main one on the north, and then it's actually wild. So like the northernmost spot you're looking at is the main spillover, further up actually, right there. Yeah, that's the main spillover. The other thing is actually like, I guess it's like I don't think the water got over it. Don't quote me, but like the one you pointed out with all that riprap, I think that's like worst case scenario because they put a newer emergency spillway just south of where you're at now.
Damn.
They didn't do that long ago. That one right there. So for sure, water went over that thing. I don't know if it went through the middle one.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And then you're looking at Afterbay, which is another small reservoir. What sucks about that is they were actually, if you scroll downstream, they had a huge project going on. You can see the lake's drawn down, and they're redoing the dam on that to raise it by 4 feet. And that whole project got wiped out.
Oh, man.
Yeah, like it just completely wiped out. So, wow. So for your viewers in Virginia, to put this all together, Hyco flows into this Afterbay. Afterbay then flows, it meanders through, and it flows into the dam right before it goes into Kurt Bugs. So all this water, made it into bugs, made it into gas, and made it into but they're big enough. Their storage can hold it. It's just that Hyco's, I think, 3,500 acres. So it just, that much rain, it doesn't have that much storage. So,
and the biggest thing is because of the way it's designed, because lake design is so fascinating to me because it's about surface area, where this thing is so fingery. It looks like it can absorb a lot of boat pressure, fishing pressure, because of how many coves and crap there are in it.
Fishing pressure, yes. Boat pressure, no. That's the big challenge they have. One is erosion, because it's actually, despite all of the channels, it's pretty narrow. So it gets a lot of erosion from wakes. And the other problem they're having is, so towards the dam and on the north side, it's a place called the Finger. So it's like 3 creek arms that come back in. And I haven't kept up with it, but they're fighting development. The talk is that they're putting some neighborhoods up there, and they're going to put neighborhoods with a big, massive kind of quote private marina. Don't quote me on this. I'm just telling you what I heard. It makes sense to me. They just built a new casino in Danville. Not huge, but obviously they want to get people there. The rumor is that the owner of the casino, which I think is Caesars, don't quote me. It's one of the big ones, Caesar, MGM, one of the two. Anyways, that they are behind the developments getting built, and they're going to basically, they're going to rent them out as like Airbnbs. And they said the problem is they have enough right now managing the boat traffic there between recreation and homeowners and fishermen. Fishermen definitely being low on the tier of the amount of people there. So their concern is, well, they're going to put in these homes and they're going to put in these boat slips. But if they rent a house out for 10 people, well, does that mean they're going to bring 1 boat or 1 jet ski? Or are they going to bring 8 boats, 4 jet skis? Like, and especially in the Fingers area, like it's pretty tight coming out of there. And they're just worried about safety, not just pressure and erosion and things like that, but just safety. So it's an ongoing thing, and they've been talking about it for years up there. It's just one of the nuances every lake has.
It's a big problem though, because real estate development and HOAs kind of run most of our inland lakes and soon to be probably rivers, and they don't necessarily have the best interest in mind when it comes to outdoors fishing and conservation. And you see this like Norman, Lake Anna, Smith Mountain Lake in Virginia. Bugs, weirdly enough, because of the zoning they did before World War II, it's going to be hard for that to get developed, which is fascinating. Guys, go check out that episode I did with the Army Corps of Engineers, because it physically can't get overdeveloped because it's so weird how they zone it. But everywhere else, yeah, I can see some of these lakes becoming private. I did an episode 2 years ago on Lake Manassas where a really rich person came in and bought around the lake and turned it into a golf course for people in Congress. And all of a sudden that lake became private. And are we heading that way with real estate getting more and more expensive, casinos coming in? It's scary that we're putting so much power in the handful of a couple of stay-at-home moms on an HOA board. It's terrifying.
It is, yeah. Well, and I know that exact thing too. Like, never got to fish it, but there's some, I don't even know the name of it, but a small reservoir, like it was a kayak kind of hidden gem out in East Texas. That same thing. Like it was the place to go. That was kind of like, no one talks about this, and private ownership now completely shut down, gone forever. Hyco will be weird too, interesting too to see. I don't keep up with it. So traditionally it's coal power. So Duke Power owns the reservoir. If you live on it, you're basically leasing from Duke Power, is my understanding. Now that they're phasing out from coal, one, it's changing the dynamics. Like it used to be a really, truly a hot water discharge. Like they still do discharge, but nothing like they used to. They are converting it, from what I understand, to natural gas in the next few years. So the plan is, I guess they'll still operate it, but again, you're at the mercy. If Duke decides to do something, Duke's going to decide to do something. So it'll be interesting to see. A lot of people don't think about that. I think locally, because I mentioned Waccamaw before, but like North Carolina, every single place you're fishing is, if it's a reservoir, it's man-made, and it's man-made for a reason. Unfortunately, not for your pleasure. It's for water or power. Let's be honest. So you're at the mercy.
Yeah, and this is pissing in the wind, but it would be nice for them to build a place that's just for anglers or just for outdoors people, and not for paddle boarders or real estate development, stuff like that. I mean, you have Lake Fork, which is allegedly supposed to be that, and you don't have a lot of lakes like that. And it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of demoralizing to think like all this could go away. I know on certain lakes up near me, they talk about putting in motor restriction or eliminating tournaments. Smith Lake, that disaster. There's rumors of like, well, what can we do to stop this? So I don't know. Get out there, guys. Get on your boards and just listen in to some of the stuff that they talk about. It's wild who makes the decisions for your lake, and you don't really know their names. So yeah, go out there and check it out. Something about the kayak thing I just want to mention that is the Hobie. Hobie's back. Whitewater Marine and Johnny Morris bought him up.
We'll see what happens, man. I don't know. Like, I don't really have a dog in the fight. Like since I've got serious about angling in a kayak, like I've always been in a native. It's just first when I was I was in a perception, but what I consider like a tournament ready platform. It's always been a native. And with that, I mean, this is just my experience. Like it's a true pedal drive, right? I got into a Hobie one time and it's the push. And I'm like, it just didn't feel right. So, but I've talked to guys like they started with this and they can't do this. Mm-hmm. And now it's kind of a moot point because everybody's got motors. So, but yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. Like, I mean, obviously, like you can go watch, guys that are way more in the know about it than I am from a business perspective. But, it sounds like it's going to go one of two ways. I mean, regardless, they have to fix their warranty issues. They just, got overwhelmed. And that was the problem where, they just could not keep up with the demand. And unfortunately, quality tanked when they moved their production. You can go read about that somewhere else. It's awesome that they have committed to bringing it back to the States. 100% the only thing they should have and could have done, in my opinion. So that's awesome. That's, right off the gate, that's a massive, massive, perfect decision. But, it'd be interesting to see, like, what are they going to do? I think it was said like, I'm so biased, a lot of us are so biased in the tournament realm. Like they want the tournament ready platform, but we have to remember they make all these other boats that are for the recreational user, just the weekend user, the Lynx, some of the older ones, I'll get them mixed up. So like, it's not just the Outbacks and the 360 PA 14 360s and things like that. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, obviously the fight is, can they, get the quality back? Can they catch up? Can they make things right with the warranty? That's one thing versus just mass producing, to get sales out the door. It'll be interesting to see, like, for me, like, what's the one thing that's lacking in a Bass Pro Shop is, a lack of kayak friendly gear. Like, I'm not saying I don't recall like, a Yak Attack or any of those brands really truly stocked in Bass Pro. Used to see a hog trough. I've never seen a catch board or a leaderboard from Yak Attack in a Bass Pro. What will that look like? Will there, be a line? Basically, in my mind, like, does it only help out the Hobie user for Hobie to be in a Bass Pro, or is it going to help out all kayak brands being in? Obviously they're going to only sell those boats there, but all the accessories and things like that, will that actually be a bonus? We'll see. I'm happy for them. I get it. I understand why people are, once you fall in love with a product and something you're used to, you're going to be loyal, and I get it. It's just not me. So I don't really have a dog in the fight. I hope, we'll see. The other thing we hadn't talked about, AJ ran such a great trail with Hobie. It was we talked about it before, like that was phasing out as Steve Owens and Bassmaster was phasing up and really doing things. And in a lot of ways, they're very similarly ran. And so we'll see. I don't know if they'll ever, if or when they'll take a stab back at running their trail again. I don't know what that looks like. It's, for me, I'll hit back on native just to kind of pick a bone. Like, the one thing I love the product now. Native's customer service has been awesome. I love it. They're also made in the U.S. right here in North Carolina. So Bonafide as well. Big Adventures out in Fletcher. Love the product. Love the customer service. I really don't agree with their, let's call it a lack of pro staff or lack of ambassadorship. You look now, like Hobie had it and it went away. I think right now Old Town is running laps around people of how they do their pro staffing. Again, that's in the tournament world.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. There's still the recreational stuff, and Big Adventures has bigger fish to fry, no pun intended, but they do whitewater boats with Liquid Logic, and I might get these names wrong, but they're not just making tournament boats either. But that's one thing I think I wish I'd love to see Native do better.
When it comes to that, I'm of two minds. One is we need Hobie in the world. Hobie was the trailblazer for kayak fishing. It had the legit premium kayak trail that was for kayak fishermen by kayak fishermen. By far had the best payout structure out of any fishing tournament, whether it was a bass boat or kayak. Bassmaster has not even touched that at all with what Hobie did in its prime. So it's like, yeah, you want that to stay around. But I also hate that everything is becoming owned by private equity or one big monopoly, and it's just feel like we're like Torqeedo is now owned by Yamaha. So it's like, is this where we're going to end up, where there's like three major equities that just own everything? Yeah. Is that where we're going? Because Johnny is eating up every damn thing, and I don't like that either. Because when will he buy another kayak company? When was that going to happen? When is Skeeter Boats going to try to buy Native or somebody else if they could? I'm nervous because I think that's where we're going, especially as bass boats get more expensive. When will a bass boat manufacturer be like, hey, let's just sign a check and buy Bonafide and get it under here? Because it's something that we could start producing. I think that's coming in the next 5 to 6 years. I totally see that coming. So I don't know. I'm nervous.
Or a whole nother new facet. Like, I don't know if you saw, is it Flux Jet? I can't remember the name of it now.
The jet boat kayak?
The jet boat, yeah. They got the Chick, got one Chick River combat. Like, I mean, I'm skeptical. Like, I'll go on the record. I hope it's a great product. I hope, but like the first version of anything, like if you jump into one, not just making a jet boat, but you're going to put in a kayak, but you've never manufactured a kayak ever before. I think there's some baby steps to follow. I think the concept, people are probably thinking, okay, well, here's what's next. So I'm not going to say like Old Town or Native or Bonafide is going to do that, or even Hobie for that matter. But there's going to be a new startup called something, and maybe it is the company that came up with it. I mean, they won the award at ICAST, so it passed that test. So
yeah,
that's an interesting one.
And the plastic boat scene, like what Bonafide did with the XTR 130, in my thought, is they broke glass of, let's have this thing really look more like a bass boat, and it has that look.
Yeah.
What is the next generation somebody else is going to put out? It's going to push it further. And so there are already plastic bass boats out there in Japan, Brazil, places like that. Yeah. And I talked to a guy that ran a marina at the Richmond Fishing Expo last year, and he said, yeah, if bass boat manufacturers could get into roller motor boats, they would do it because of the cost. He said making fiberglass is the most expensive way you can do it. Aluminum is second. But if you could whip out a rotor motored boat that's 15, 16 feet and you could sell it for $15,000, you would print money. Yeah. And I wonder, is that where we're going? Is that where we're going to be in kayak fishing in 10 years? Is it's not going to look like a kayak anymore?
Right. Yeah. Well, I hold out hope. Like, I'm still a traditionalist. Like, I can only say this, like, I did not come from a bass boat world to a kayak world. I've been in the kayak world ever since I've been into tournament and serious about fishing. But I can tell you, every single person I've talked to that came from the boat world and is now in a kayak will say they'll never go back. Mm-hmm. One, they become a better angler because they're forced to. Number two, it is they have that feeling where they are more immersed in their environment. It is more connected to nature. And I just hope and pray that never goes away, right? Because, like even in a boat world, there's nothing better than getting on the water pre-dawn, the mist and fog's rising. You see the sunrise come up. Like you cannot replace that feeling. And so I'm gonna argue and be a traditionalist. And maybe we can just stay.
Yeah.
Well, Native's got their hammer coming out, which I'm intrigued by. It's that same size fit of what I've got now in the Titan X, but I think a little sleeker. That's been my one complaint. Like, I'll just tell you, like, the Titan X, it is not made to pedal. It's certainly not made to paddle, but I don't even know why they sell a pedal drive with it, because
it's a tank.
It's not feasible. It's made for a motor, let's be honest. I feel like the hammer, maybe, that whole design, that that they've gone way more sleeker. The sleek new pedal drive that they've come out with. I think that one could turn some heads, and it's weird because it's not like at first glance, it's not like a drastic new design. It's not, like I said, it's not like the XTR 130 or anything like that, but I do feel like that could be a game changer. We'll see.
While I have you on here, one thing I've always curious with a kayak guy is, in the boating world, the drama there with forward-facing sonar, it's fascinating to me, at least when I talk to friends in the kayak tournaments I run. It's never gotten whipped up into the same fervor in the kayaking world. It just hasn't. Like there are people that are upset about forward-facing sonar kayaking, but it is nowhere in the stratosphere that it is in Bassmaster, BFLs, things like that. Do you feel like that's true?
So I have two thoughts on that. One, I think you don't see it because it's so far a non-issue on the bigger trails. Like, it was never an issue with Hobie or Bassmaster because they allow it. And I think there's still, there's two factions in that world, right? Like, people that'll fish any body of water, any kind of water, anywhere, offshore, whatever. And then there's the guys that want to be river rats and run. So you're always going to have, those two schools of thought. But I will say it has come up on the local scene, 100%, no doubt. Now, the club out of Raleigh, this was the first year they went no forward facing. Now, they made a lot of other changes that are, unfortunately, I think, the start of the demise of that club. I hate to see it. But their numbers were down 100%. CKA, which is out of Greensboro, decided to no changes as far as forward facing. You can use it this year, but there's been that slow decline. And I think, call it what it is. The older school train of thought, you're losing some of those guys. They're just not, and it's 100%. I mean, there's guys that are sticks that utilize it. I have no problem with them utilizing it. Most people don't have a problem utilizing it. You just know you're fishing for 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th at best. It just is what it is. Squirrel can get a nut every now and then. I took out Will last year, and I get every chance I can to say I beat Will Lambert. So I'm saying it again, Will, if you ever watch this. There's chatter. I don't know what's going to happen. I have no idea. I would not be surprised if that club here locally makes a change for next year and does kind of like what the elites are doing, is doing a 50-50 random draw. I can 100% see it happening. The problem with kayaks, how do you enforce it? We can put locks on it. I get it. But, I'm just going to say, I don't know anybody that would do this, but you could leave a ramp, go off about your day. It's honor system at that point, and I'll leave it at that.
So do you think the live scope drama is equal in the kayak world as the Bassmaster and the boat world, or do you think the boat world is way more? There's more drama around it.
I think it's the same amount of drama. It's just on a bigger scale in the boat world because you see it more. I mean, let's call it. There's bigger money. There's bigger things at play. But I think at the principle of it, it's the same. It's the same discussion. It's the same drama.
Fascinating. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, because it's like with at least the MVKBA and a couple other tours, it seems like you had half people that won with scope and half that won without it. And now I do think part of that is where we fish.
Right, more rivers.
I think, yeah, because we have the tidal, we have the Rappahannock, with smallmouth rivers, of course. You're not going to, I don't know if you're going to use it in 3 inches of water when you're doing a float. So I do think that's a huge part of it people aren't talking about, that if you're going to go to Kentucky Lake, whether it's a kayak or a boat, yeah, scope gives you one hell of an advantage versus the Susquehanna River. I don't know how many people actually have used that to successfully win a smallmouth tournament. So how much of it is it an impetus on tournament directors to be like, yeah, let's just also make sure we're not going to a scope specific lake. Let's mix it up. I don't know.
Well, and I'm in the camp too, 100%. Like, because just because you have it, and it's the argument all of old time. Just because you have it doesn't make you a better fisherman. Because there's 100% guys. I've never even used it, but I can tell just how I've seen them fish. They don't even know how to use it, and they're just wasting money. Honestly, Will Lambert. He will beat you 9 times out of 10 without forward facing. He's that good of an angler. Was before. Will be if it ever goes away. He just time on the water, experience is 100% why he's successful with it. It's just another tool in his toolbox. He doesn't use it all the time. And other guys will say that I'm not putting Will on a pedestal, even though I probably should. Wyatt Hammond's another guy on my team. Wyatt has had national success. It is a tool in the toolbox. Sometimes they rip it off and leave it in the truck, because at the end of the day, it's knowledge, it's experience, it's time on the water, and it's instinct. And that is going to far outweigh scope, in my opinion, by itself, right? Because you can't just plug it in and use it. So, it is, there's still that, sticks are going to be sticks regardless. I'll just leave it at that.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah, dude. Dave, I really appreciate you coming on. Is there anything coming up that we can promote here? Any kayak tournaments or kayak sign-up events that you want to get more membership for a club?
Actually, so I've talked to you earlier about members. So for me personally, so with our kayak bass team series, we again fish against two teams out of Virginia. We got our last regular season event coming up on Western Branch this weekend. So it's probably air after that. If not, just give us some space, because Western Branch is fishing pretty good right now, I think. Lo and behold, it looks like we're going to have another frontal passage come through. Great, right? So big front coming through Wednesday. It's supposed to get really chilly behind it, so we'll see. But Western Branch is a ton of fun. If you haven't been to those Suffolk lakes, go check them out.
Yeah,
I think you dabbled them before. Branch is by far my favorite. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's largemouth paradise to me. There's giants in there. There's citations in there, but just the number of 3 to 5 pounders in there is insane. We've caught them on glide baits. We've caught them on top water. We've caught them offshore. So you can do anything you want out there. So that'll be fun. And then the Lunkers, my team, have qualified. So we're going to go back to our national championship, which I think we don't have to drive to Caddo Lake this year. We're going to Lake Murray. So much closer to home. We'll be down on Lake Murray at the end of October. So we'll be fishing against the other regions. We'll see. I know Queen City. Yeah, Queen City just had a tournament at Murray right at a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, and definitely that typical weird late summer, early fall bite where there was a ton of 15 and 16 inchers and not a real big bag to win it. So hopefully by then, my understanding right now, the striper going mad like they are on Smith Mountain right now. Same thing's happening down Murray, so that's supposed to calm down hopefully a little bit. But the one I wanted to talk about, if you're listening in Virginia, so check out, if you go to carolinakayakanglers.com or CKA, just search CKA. They have the Battle on the Border, which happens every year. It's basically, we try to get as many of the folks from Virginia, no matter what trail you fish, if you don't even fish a trail, and as many as we can from North Carolina. It's after all the TOCs, all that. Anyways, it is Curb Bugs Island. Happens every year. It's a great time. Bragging rights for the state. It's always a pretty decent payout. Numbers are pretty good. This year they're doing something different. You'll have to go to the website and check it out. So I like it. What they're doing is Saturday, and while I'm talking, I'm going to pull up the dates. At least I can get that for you. But Saturday is going to be your traditional best five. And then they'll do awards and all that good stuff. And then if you want, as optional, Sunday, they're going to do it's hourly big bass only. So they're going to do payouts every hour on the hour. So it should be a pretty cool deal. That's something new that they're doing this year. So it's going to be October 25th and 26th. So you can fish anywhere on Curb Bugs. They have the typical limits going up both rivers. Then they're going to do the prizes and awards on Saturday at Henderson Point. And then, hourly big bass on Sunday all day. So I think it'll probably be the same, 8 hours. So, you catch the biggest fish for hour one. You get whatever. I don't know if they're going to do $100, $200. I don't know what it is, what the payouts are if they determine that. But and then just a virtual weigh-in on Sunday, so guys can just lines out, get home, be home maybe by dinner. But that's a cool change this year that they're doing that, adding the big bass. So I think that's a cool thing. So Carolina Kayak Anglers, check that out, October 25th, 26th. that's my wedding weekend and also my son's soccer tournament. So I have to miss it once again. I think I've missed that tournament 3 years in a row now. Sorry, Hank. Sorry, Eric. It's not my fault. I talk a lot of bad stuff about curve bugs, but I know some spots now that I think I could at least do big bass. So we'll see. But maybe next year.
Well,
but that's it. Yeah, that's what I got going on. Go out and fish this winter, guys. If you're sleeping on winter, I mean, I know it's tough in the rivers, but I can just tell you if I was in Virginia, I'd be on Anna or Smith Mountain, or I'd be on Dyson. I want to go to Dyson.
Hyco.
Hyco, yep. Hyco in the winter. Mayo in the winter. Anywhere down here in the winter, there's a secret little deal. If you're interested in coming down, look me up. Shoot me a message on Facebook or something. We'll go out for a day. Yeah, Dyson I want to hit, and Western Branch would be fun in the winter. We keep talking about going to Western Branch.
That would be a lot of fun. Yeah. And then guys, don't worry. We were going to do a Norfolk Lake deep dive here between now and sometime next year once I get the right guest on to break that place down, because that's the last big legendary place we haven't talked about on the show yet. And that will be a fun one when that one breaks, because that's a cool place with a lot of cool lakes that no one wants to talk about.
I got a guy for you, Sean Bors. I'm gonna look him up. He's running. I don't think you've had him on yet, but he's running Virginia Bass Nation kayak series. So
that's perfect. Cool. That's good to know.
Sean Bors needs to get on there. He'll talk about old Stumpy. Probably somebody might hit me for saying that, but Stumpy's got some freak bass.
Yeah, there's so many lakes like that, and that I'm glad that you guys and Sean are taking advantage of that for kayak tournaments. Because I mean, shout out to him. The first event for the kayak Bass Nation this year for Virginia was Briery and Sandy, which is perfect. The two legendary Virginia big lakes that you can't put a bass boat on for a tournament, but that's perfect for kayaking. And
Sandy.
Yeah, and there were a lot of guys that messaged me like, I didn't know if I was going to fish this series, but those two places are intriguing. I've heard so many legends. I want to go down there just because of those. And yeah, North Carolina and Virginia have so many sneaky places like that I think it'll bring anglers, because there's so many rumors and legends about places like that it's attractive to fish. Mm-hmm. So, Dave, I really appreciate you coming on the show. As always, guys, link in the episode description to everything we talked about. If you want to get with anything that Dave is doing, any of his kayak organizations, I'll put a link in the episode description there. If you want to reach out to me, check out my email address down below, or message me on any social media platform, and check me out on Patreon, because I'm between jobs right now and you guys are keeping me from being homeless, which I appreciate. And we will see you guys next time on Fishing the DMV. Bye. You're listening to Fishing the DMV with your host, Thomas Ahrens. Fishing the DMV is brought to you by Jake's Bait and Tackle, located in Winchester, Virginia.
If that doesn't get you jacked up, I don't know what will.